Alright, so welcome to a surprise 7th Ghibli video. Now, I wasn't actually expecting to do this one, but after several requests, I figured that it would be fun to put together a video guide on how to create your own original chord progressions, for all of you who are trying out the template from the recent video. We'll cover some basics of functional harmony in minor keys, as well as specific strategies for the templates, like extended harmonies and borrowed chords. Before that, I want to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons, especially to the newest members of the Patreon community: Sita, Martha Hernandez, Mago, Berger Vessel, Veronica Rebeck, Declan Cooney, and Eva. I really appreciate the support that each of you are showing to this channel and cannot express how grateful I am to each and every one of you. I have just a few more announcements before we get started, so if you're not interested, I have included a timestamp in the description of this video, so you can skip right to the main topic. This Wednesday, I will be doing another Q&A video, so if you have any music-related questions that you'd like to have answered, please leave them in the comments of this video. On Wednesday, I will also be announcing the winner of the Patreon vote, and the character that will be the inspiration for the character suite that I will be writing in the next series. Shortly after, the new series will begin, and I'll record and stream my entire composing process so that you can see every detail and thought that goes into writing a thematic suite. Finally, today I'm doing a limited time special deal on Patreon. For the next 24 hours, all patrons can submit their original music for review and constructive feedback. All patrons are eligible regardless of tier, and all you have to do is share a link to your music on Patreon within 24 hours. Sheet music is not necessary, but it is preferable. To keep from being overwhelmed, I am placing length limits on the pieces submitted according to their tier level, starting at 2 minutes in length. More details can be found on a post on the Patreon page. All proceeds will go towards helping me to make a tuition payment for school. So with that, let's finally dive into the topic at hand: writing Ghibli chord progressions. So, from our analysis video, we know that most Ghibli music tends to start in a minor key. So let's remind ourselves of the diatonic chords in the minor key. We have the minor first, diminished second, major third, minor fourth, minor fifth, major sixth, and major seventh. Remember that we get these chords by following the add one, skip one rule. We're working with the A minor scale, so we get the minor first chord by adding the first scale degree, skipping the second, adding the third, skipping the fourth, and then adding the fifth. We follow the same strategy with the second chord: add, skip, add, and continue until we have all of our diatonic chords. Now, in functional harmony, each of these chords are going to be sorted into one of 3 chord families: the tonic family, the subdominant family, and the dominant family. The tonic family tends to be full of strong chords, or chords that feel stable and solid, while both the subdominant and dominant families contain weak chords, or chords that carry lots of tension and want to resolve. The dominant family in particular is very weak and really wants to resolve to the first chord. In a minor key, the tonic family consists of chords built on the first and third scale degree. This means that the most stable chords are the minor first and the major third. All other chords belong to the subdominant family. There aren't really any chords belonging to the dominant family that occur diatonically in the natural minor scale. So in order to make sure that we have at least one, we need to create one. And this is typically done by borrowing the sharp seventh from the harmonic minor to create a major fifth. This chord is even weaker than the minor fifth and really wants to lead right back to the minor first chord. This proves very useful for helping to establish the minor first as the tonic, or the home of the key. And that's why you're more likely to find a major fifth chord used in minor keys than the otherwise diatonic minor fifth. So, these are the chords that we can work with in most minor keys. In order to create a useful chord progression, we can follow a very simple pattern of strong, weak, until you reach the desired length of your chord progression. In any strong slot, you can add any chord from the tonic family. Although I will warn you that the major third chord is the tonic of the relative major key, so be careful not to overuse it if you want to make sure that you keep the minor feeling of your music. In any weak slot, you can use any chord from the subdominant or dominant chord families, remembering that the dominant in particular really wants to resolve to the chord built off the first scale degree. And this is a very simple guide to functional harmony. If you stick to these guidelines, you'll always be able to come up with a reliable chord progression. For example, A minor, D minor, A minor, E major, or A minor, F major, C major, E major, or even A minor, G major, A minor, or D minor. See how nicely each of those work out? So that's the basics of writing chord progressions in a minor key. But what about making them sound more idiomatic of a Ghibli film? Well, for that, we know that extended harmonies and borrowed chords are very important. So it's a simple matter of adding them to the equation. First, let's try adding some simple seventh chords as potential color chords. To do this, we just need to add one more skip add to each chord. We skip the sixth and add the seventh. In a minor key, this gives us a minor 7 first, a minor 7 flat 5 second, a major 7 third, a minor 7 fourth, a minor 7 fifth, a major 7 sixth, and a dominant 7th. It also turns our borrowed major 5th into a dominant 5th. Now, none of these extensions impact our chordal families in any way that is significant to our needs in this video. For our purposes, they just give us more of the aesthetic that we're looking for. If you wanted to add ninths, you would just need to follow the same skip add rule that we did to get the sevenths. So let's see how this impacts our chord progressions from earlier. Alright, so that's already sounding much more Ghibli-esque, but there is one more thing that we can do, and that is to introduce some borrowed chords. So in the pieces we analyzed for the previous series, we found that Joe Hisaishi tends to borrow chords from the parallel major, Phrygian, and Lydian on various occasions. So this gives us some additional options to play with. Namely, from the parallel major, we can consider throwing in a major first or a major fourth into the equation. Either of these chords can give the sound an overall more positive feel when used sparingly. From the Lydian, we also have a major first and a major second. These two can provide a more whimsical feeling to the sound of your harmony, especially when used one after the other. Finally, from Phrygian, we can borrow the flat major second. This one is very useful for creating a more exotic sound without having to worry about taking you too far from the original minor feeling of the key. In each of these situations, the chords built off the first scale degree are considered part of the tonic family and will thus fit into any of the strong slots, and any of the chords built on the second or fourth scale degrees will fit in the subdominant family and will thus fit into the weak slots. So with that, we have everything we need to create a Ghibli-style chord progression. So let's try doing one together.
All right, so step one is to figure out our key and our chord options. So we're going to go with C minor, which means that our options, including all potential borrowed chords, include each of these. Step two is to figure out how long your chord progression should be. And by now we know that most phrases in Studio Ghibli music are typically 4 or 8 bars long, so let's just go with 8 bars this time around. Step 3 is to pick our chords. And so we're going to do this using the strong-weak strategy I discussed earlier. So strong being any chord from the tonic family, and weak being any chord from the subdominant or dominant family. So let's just crank some of these out. Right off the bat, we've got to pick a strong chord. we're in the key of C minor, so let's try C minor 7. All right, so this helps establish the key we're in. It has the extended harmonies, which is nice for the Ghibli sound. We've got a nice strong chord. Next, we got to pick a minor, not a minor chord, but a weak chord. So this could be any subdominant or dominant chord at all. You can pick it at random. Let's just pick, let's say F minor 7. All right, that's got to come down. So does the A. All right, so now we've got strong, weak. Time to do another strong. I don't want to, So we get to choose between C minor 7 and E flat major 7. But keeping in mind that the E flat major 7 is the tonic to the relative major key, I want to make sure that we really drive home that we're in C minor and not E flat major. So let's do another C minor 7. All right, so now we've got strong, weak, strong. We got to do another weak. Let's just throw in, let's say, let's just do A flat. Oop. Yep, that's A flat. So A flat major 7. So A, C, E, and then G. All right, so now we've got strong, weak, strong, weak. Let's go back to the strong. This time, we've done C minor 7 twice, so I feel a little more comfortable doing the E flat major 7. So let's do E flat major 7, E, G, B, D. All right, so then from here, we've got 3 chords left. And actually, we haven't used any borrowed chords yet. So let's pick a weak chord. Let's go, so we can borrow from major, Lydian, or Phrygian. Let's do Lydian just because I like Lydian. Let's do, so that would be a D major, F, and A. And then instead of trying to get too complicated by adding extensions on top of a borrowed chord, I'm just going to keep, I mean, you can if you want, but I'm just going to keep things simple, I think. I'm just going to toss a D on there. All right, so now we got strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak. Now, if we continue, we would do another strong and weak, but that would mean we'd be ending the chord progression on a weak chord. And just personally, I don't care much for that. So let's skip ahead, actually, and toss in, let's end our chord progression on our tonic. Actually, you know what? Let's get rid of the 7th and just double the 7, because that's, let's give that a listen. That's a fairly dissonant sound, and just in my experience, dissonance at the end of the phrase doesn't work as well as elsewhere in the phrase. So we're just gonna make this a regular triad, but to make sure we have the same number of notes as all the others, we're gonna double, and we'll double the root because that's nice and safe option. So now we've got this space here. Now we could go with this weak chord here is a subdominant. Now we've been doing strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, but remember that the subdominant wants to resolve to either the tonic or the dominant. And seeing as how we have not yet used our dominant chord yet, I'm going to go tonic, subdominant, dominant, then tonic again. That's actually the traditional approach for functional harmonies, to follow that pattern, but I find the strong, weak gives you a little bit more variability. So let's do G, B, D, and then G, B, D, F. There we go, G, B, D, F. We've got our G dominant 7. Let's give this a quick listen to. And look, that works pretty well. All right, so there's just one last step, step 4, and that is to voice lead everything. So let's do some very simple voice leading. For that, we'll just highlight each of the root notes here, drop them an octave, and then treat these chords up here like regular triads and just voice lead them. So for voice leading triads, we want common tones to stay in the same voice. So we've got this E flat, or D sharp as Cubase calls it. We'll keep those in the same voice. We've got another one up here. So we keep those all in the same voice, and we want to move the other voices by small intervals, typically by seconds or thirds. So there are no common, well, there's the G here, but so those are common tones. So we got to keep those in the same voice. I'm going to drop that D since that's a smaller movement, so that the D sharp or the E flat can move to D, and it's not jumping up to G. So we keep these in the same voice, which means that these Ds need to come back down here too, and B, D, F. Yeah, this is all good. And you know, I'm actually going to raise those. No, we'll leave them down here. Let's give this a quick listen to. Nice. All right, so, and yeah, that is a fully functioning, fully acceptable chord progression. If you wanted to spend more time on it, you could definitely, of course, spend way more time on it. But yeah, it doesn't need to be anything complicated. So with that, we've reached the end of another video. I hope that it's been helpful to all of you. And if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to share them below. Also, speaking of questions, don't forget that Wednesday is another Q&A video. So if you have any questions for that, please share them in the comments of this video as well, or you can send them to my email, tabletopcomposer@gmail.com. So thank you again for all of your incredible support. I wish you all the very best, and until next time, keep studying, keep working hard, and keep writing new music.